Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review for the Bill Paxton Marathon. And last time I did a fan commentary for Aliens. So this time a review of Near Dark. This is the special edition from Anchor Bay from long ago. 2-disc, which had quite a few good features. It's a 2-disc set, has a little booklet. This is one Anchor Bay. I don't even know if they're still around, but if they are, they're not worth the shit, unlike back in the day when they made some really good releases. Disc 1 has a commentary with Kathryn Bigelow, which I remember honestly not being much. But Disc 2, you have a 47-minute documentary. You had interviews with director Kathryn Bigelow, stars Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, Adrian Pasdar, Jeanette Goldstein, the producer, the DP, and the executive producer. You also have a deleted scene, 2 trailers, poster and still gallery, behind the scenes gallery, and original storyboards. And this is a 1987 film, like it says, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, who would go on to do Blue Steel, which I liked, mainly the finale of that. She did Point Break, she did The Hurt Locker, which I really enjoy. She did Strange Days, K-19 The Widowmaker, Zero Dark 30. I would say this is my second favorite of hers, because my favorite is The Hurt Locker with Jeremy Renner. I really do enjoy that film. This would be number 2, and I would put Blue Steel as number 3. And honestly, those are the only 3 Kathryn Bigelow films I enjoy. Zero Dark 30 just did not get me. Strange Days wasn't my cup of tea. Point Break was never one of those movies that I was big on. I know people are like, what, really? When I look at Keanu Reeves, there are other films I enjoy. Bill and Ted movies, the film Speed, the Matrix films, Constantine, the John Wick films, Street Kings, Devil's Advocate. When I look at Patrick Swayze, I look more towards Uncommon Valor, Steel Dawn, Roadhouse, Ghost, among others. Just that film never got me, like it did to a lot of people. But I enjoy this film. And of course, this is what Twilight wants to be, but can't hold a candle to, this film, because it's a vampire love story. I know they reissued a DVD which tried to mimic the posters of Near Dark, which looks awful. I mean, this looks better than that. At least it's colorful, like that sort of reflection. My favorite cover was the VHS poster. I mean, the VHS cover, which I'll try to put as the thumbnail for this. I always remember that VHS cover. And Near Dark is one of those movies that grew on me. I never hated the film, but it's not a vampire film I grew up with, because the vampire films I grew up with were the original Fright Night and Fright Night Part 2 and The Lost Boys, which came out the same year as this. I believe The Lost Boys came out the summer of 87, while this came out in October 87. And The Lost Boys had a bigger studio, Warner Brothers, behind it. It released in over 1,000 theaters, and it became a good-sized hit, while this came out in, what, 200 and some theaters, and did not have a big studio behind it for marketing, and it didn't really do that well. But it has a great cast. Adrian Pasdar, I remember when I first saw this over a decade ago, not being too keen on him, but watching this again, I enjoyed Adrian Pasdar. I thought he did a good job as the lead guy. He definitely grew on me. I'm like, you know what, this guy isn't that bad as Caleb. You have Jenny Wright as this woman that seduces him, and he's sort of a country bumpkin, and she sees her licking an ice cream cone and goes to talk with her, messes with her. One thing leads to another, she bites him on the neck. And almost immediately, when daylight comes, he starts burning up. He gets picked up in this RV. And that's where we're introduced to a lot of the cast. I always forget Tim Thomerson is in this. Tim Thomerson from Trancers, among many other films, Doll Man, Uncommon Valor. He plays Adrian Pasdar's dad. The dad and little sister see him get taped in, and throughout the film they're looking for him. And meanwhile, Adrian Pasdar in this RV, not only does he know the woman, May, played by Jenny Wright, but he's introduced to this little kid who is a little kid in body, but he's been alive much, much longer than that, named Homer, which is, get the actor's name, Joshua John Miller, who was in Death Warrant, with Jean-Claude Van Damme's film Death Warrant. He was also in Class in 1999. And he also helped write the horror comedy The Final Girls. I'm like, that's the same guy? So yeah, this kid here on the cover, he was the nerdy guy with glasses who helped the female lead in Death Warrant try to get Van Damme out of prison. A little bit of computer hacking, computer finding. He was in Class of 1999, and again, he would help write The Final Girls, which I enjoyed that movie. And of course, gotta save for last, the rest, the three from the cast of Aliens. Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and Jeanette Goldstein. Hudson, Bishop, and Vasquez. And Bill Paxton found out about it, gave the script to Lance Henriksen, and he enjoyed it. And then Jeanette Goldstein became involved. I think at one point Michael Biehn was going to be involved. I think he was going to play the role Lance Henriksen got. I'm not sure, but he read the script and didn't care for it, so Lance Henriksen took it. But they did a great job. And even Kathryn Bigelow had called James Cameron and said, hey, is it okay if I take some of your cast from Aliens? He's like, yeah, go ahead. And he did. In one scene, in the marquee on a theater, Aliens is playing. So that's pretty cool. It's written by Kathryn Bigelow and Eric Red. Now, Eric Red, I'm a big fan of Eric Red. He helped write, well, he was the writer on the original The Hitcher, which is a classic with Rutger Hauer. Why that's not out on Blu-ray, have no idea. He wrote and directed Body Parts with Jeff Fahey, which is a very underrated film. I've reviewed that on my channel. It's a classic, in my opinion, of the 90s. I love that movie. He made Bad Moon, which is a pretty good werewolf film, which I've also reviewed on here. I'm trying to think what else he's done. He did a film with Roy Scheider called Cohen and Tate. And I think he did another one called 100 Feet. But a lot of times when I see Eric Red on there, I'm like, this is a very talented guy. Him and Kathryn Bigelow wrote a good script. And throughout the film, this family of vampires, they try to get the lead guy. They give him a week to get his first kill, otherwise he's out of there. And what makes the film work, the cast do a great job. Bill Paxton is a lot of fun bits of dialogue. When you first see Adrian Pasdar, it's like, is that what's going on? It's what's coming off your face, clean off. Or, of course, the bar scene. Wow, shit kicked her heaven. Well, whatever, donkey piss, you shoving down these cocksuckers' throats. Or when he's got blood, he's licking, he's like, finger licking good. I miss Bill Paxton. Really do miss the guy. Always been a fan of his. Aliens, Twister. He does a great job in this. He's my favorite part of the film. But there's a lot of good parts to it. I mean, the cast is great, has some nice, moody, atmospheric lighting. The score by Tangerine Dream, great composer. Well, band, I should say. They compose a lot of wonderful music for many films. From The Keep to, I mean, just Miracle Mile, 3 O'Clock High. They've done a lot of great stuff. Tangerine Dream. How I wish they were still storing movies today. For the most part, whenever I hear that Tangerine Dream did the score, I'm insanely curious. and the score fits the film well. Again, the moody lighting. Not too long of a film, hour and a half. Again, it does a love story aspect where vampires much better than Twilight because you have better actors, better writing, better people involved with the project. It's definitely R rated. You still definitely have some bloody moments, some squibs when people get shot. When Adrian Pasdar hits Bill Paxton with his semi, and he has this look where his head's broken up and he's bleeding all over his face. You can't really see it well, but that kind of look there. It's a great makeup effect. There's a moment in the bar when Bill Paxton kills this guy with his spurs and cuts the guy's neck, and you see the wound open, bleeding. It's a good film. It's a good film. And the film is pretty straightforward. I mean, after the whole setup, he tries to walk away, but he's in pain, and he comes back, and Jenny Wright likes him, and so a lot of times she'll cheat, and maybe she'll kill a guy, and then let him eat and drink from her wrist. Jenny Wright, I can't. One thing, it's kind of hard. Well, it's kind of iffy on whether I like the character. It's not that I think the performance is bad. It's just it's kind of hard to like the character because, for example, when her and Adrian Pastor are riding with this truck driver and he can't kill him, so she does it pretty easily. And then there's the moment later on when she makes the guy pay attention to her so that they take his sister. But she does do the right thing at the end. She does get a little bit of repentance, because the whole setup at the end is, you know what? Before I get to that, the bar scene is what people remember most. That's a very fun sequence. Vampires getting their victims, and it's just Bill Paxton. Some nice stories in behind the scenes. For example, for that sequence, he was really tired, so he got a shot of B12. He had never gotten that before, so he was much hyper in that scene. Also, some fun stories like Lance Emerson getting into character, or the time when him and Bill Paxton got stopped by a cop, and Lance Emerson scared the cop into letting them go. Some fun stuff. I mean, if you're at all a fan of the film, definitely find this 2-disc DVD. The Living in Darkness 47-minute documentary is worth a look. It's the reason to get the DVD. You have some nice ways they did the smoke, where when the vampires are out, and I think it was done via tubes and cigars, like cigarettes, so as they walk and smoke can come out of them. And some decent firework. Nice work by the stuntmen, people on fire in bits and pieces. Nice little moments. For example, when Adrian Pasdar gets shot, and just his reaction, like, oh shit. And then Bill Paxton goes, hey man, that's alright. Feels good, doesn't it? You let me take this one. And then you get a little sense that maybe Adrian Pasdar is falling in with this clan because the cops try to attack this hotel that they're at, and he goes in, burning himself, drives the van in and out, while some cops get killed in bloody squibs, which they don't do nowadays for some reason. And after he's rescued them, they kind of respect them, including Bill Paxton, who gives him one of his spurs, and they shake his hand. And of course, conveniently enough, that's the same place that Adrian Pasdar's sister and dad are at. So that was a little bit of convenience, but you know what? It doesn't bother me too much. and the Homer, the little kid here, wants the little girl, wants to turn her and be his mate. Which I'm thinking, well, I mean, granted, you have the body of a kid, but technically you could be 50 years old. So does that mean you're in the pedophilia? Uh, which I mean, I get the idea, but I'm just spitballing there. But of course, Adrian Pasdar goes, well, fuck that. I don't want you biting my sister and turning her. And then Tim Thomerson arrives. It was cool to see Tim Thomerson and Lance Henriksen in the same frame because I like those two actors. And he shoots Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen spits up the bullet. But it's daylight, and Tim Thomerson, Adrian Pasdar, and the little girl are able to get out of there. And they do this thing that I know some critics say it's a cop-out. It didn't bother me where they do a blood transfusion, and because of the blood transfusion, now Adrian Pasdar is human again. I don't know how blood transfusion works, so I don't know if you can really make it so every ounce of your blood can be out of your body. Because you would think if you're infected, even a little bit of blood will still make you infected again. But it's a fucking vampire movie, so it's like, blood transfusion, okay, I'll go with it. I don't know how that works, sure. So it didn't really bother me that much. It's just something I read once in a while in certain reviews. Like the blood transfusion, I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen a vampire. If I ever become a vampire, I'll do a blood transfusion. If it doesn't work, then I'll admit I was wrong. And yeah, it works, but then the sister gets taken and he goes after his sister. Nice sequence with Bill Paxton, shoots a guy in the forehead, bullseye, and Adrian Pasdar hits him with a semi truck, and that's where you get this nice effect on Bill Paxton. And Bill goes, fasten your fucking seatbelt. He's able to tear the hood open, and it's one of those things where it's one of those things I'm a little bit confused by because he jackknifes the semi, right? Jackknifes the semi, but he does this thing where he jackknifes it, right? But then it explodes. I guess I don't really get how it explodes. I'm thinking, like, how the hell did this thing explode? Like, how did it explode? How did it do that? Because when he jackknives the semi, I don't remember it hitting something. I don't remember it hitting another truck, hitting another vehicle. It just jackknives. He gets up, Adrian Pasdar jumps out, and it sort of jackknives, and then all of a sudden it explodes for some reason, and I don't really get why it explodes. So I didn't get that part. I mean, I've never driven a semi, so people who know, you can explain me how does jackknifing it make it explode? I think it's a little thing, but I'm just asking a question. But one thing leads to another confrontation. Jenny Wright does the right thing, saves the little girl. Homer runs out, burns up, explodes. Lance and Jeanette Goldstein drive towards them, and they burn up as the sun's going up, and their car explodes. And then Jenny Wright gets a transfusion, and everything's all right. I think maybe the first time I saw this, I thought, man, the ending. I kind of wish they did more for the ending. It seemed like. I think when I first saw this, I thought they died pretty easily, the vampires. But they had a low budget, and it fit with the Western tone for what it was. It wasn't trying to be this big blockbuster film. It wasn't trying to be. Or in a vein of the Lost Boys. Maybe that's why I prefer the original. If I think of my favorite vampire films, it'd be From Dusk Till Dawn, the original Fright Night, The Lost Boys, John Carpenter's Vampires, and then probably the original Fright Night Part 2. And then maybe this. So it's not one of my favorite vampire films, maybe because they didn't have the budget or they didn't want it to be some big spectacle that wasn't the purpose of it. And so in that mind frame, watch it again, I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? In this Western feel of the flick, it fits for the movie. It fits for the film. So it didn't bother me this time. And the movie ends, and these two are now going to be together. And it's not a tragic ending, which I'm wondering if maybe some people wanted it to be that way. It ends on a happy note. And honestly, watching again, it's a pretty good flick. It's got good atmosphere. It has when the makeup effects are there, they're really solid. The cast works very well with each other. It's a great cast. The cast is what makes the film. Adrian Pasdar is better than I remember. I think he did a pretty damn good job. The Bill Paxton is a hoot and a half in this. It has some great one-liners. Tangerine Dream's music. That's always a band to have composing your movies. It's always a treat. Lance Henriksen, Jeanette Goldstein, they did a great job. Tim Thomerson, always nice to see him in there. One had good enough pace. Yeah, well directed by Kathryn Bigelow. I think this was her second film, and I think it was sometime after this. I keep thinking her and James Cameron became an item. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they were. Maybe they were just friends. I'd have to look that up on the Wikipedia, but it doesn't matter. It's a good vampire film. It's a good look. It's hell. It beats the fuck out of Twilight. Let me put it this way: if you hate Twilight and you're like, I want to see a good version of a vampire movie, this is the one to see. It's well done. It's well directed. Has some memorable moments like the bar scene and great cast. So thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you for the next review later.